Good morning. Welcome to episode 24 of the Driller Newscast. That's right. We've hit 6 months of news that is impacting the drilling and the water well industry. Episode 24 is brought to you by TDH Manufacturing. TDH pump hoists are built to work as hard as you do, made with the latest technology to deliver the power and precise handling required on today's job sites. TDH will provide superior performance and unmatched versatility day in and day out. After today's safety discussion, Cade from Team TDH will walk us through TDH's hybrid pump hoist they displayed at the South Atlantic Drilling Jubilee. This week in the news, we'll cover the 10 Mexican miners trapped underground in Coahuila, Mexico. Next, we'll cover the Inflation Reduction Act and the possible money available for our drilling industry. Our main story for the week is the August 15th deadline posed by the federal government on the Colorado River Compact states to reduce water consumption by 2 to 4 million acre feet. But before we dive into the news impacting our industry, let's talk some safety. For this week's safety topic, it's time to go back to school. And when I say time, it's time for my 6-year-old to get back in school, and the rest of our children, our colleagues' children, our customers' children, they're all going back, and we need to get our teams thinking about what is proper etiquette and safety around school zones, bus stops, and just working with this extra set of distracted people out there as we're operating. So, while driving in neighborhoods and school zones, take care to look for parents and children doing the unexpected. Sudden stops, double parked cars, children and parents entering the street and crosswalks distracted, expecting drivers to stop. On to school buses. The area 10 feet around a school bus is the most dangerous for children. Stop far enough back to allow them space to enter and exit the bus. It is illegal in all 50 states to pass a school bus that is stopped to load and unload children. If the yellow or red lights are flashing and the stop arm is extended, traffic must stop. Never pass a bus from behind or either side of an undivided road when it is stopped to load or unload children. Stopping a medium-duty vehicle, that's our 10,000 to 26,000 pounds, traveling at 60 miles an hour on a dry road, will require 315 feet to come to a complete stop. I want you to think about that as we have excited children bringing back to their parents their first of the year art project or what's going on. We have to be looking out for them so that they can become the future. Consider that stopping distance as we get into wet and inclement weather, such as rain, snow, and ice. Increase stopping distance by more than 1.5 times. Speed versus reaction time. The average individual's reaction time is 3/4 of a second to press the brakes. 60 miles an hour, 3/4 of a second is more than 100 feet traveled. Think about that again as we stop at that school bus stop, or we have the animals, because let's face it, bucks are going to be rut soon. We have lots of things going on. We need an additional 3 to 5 seconds to see. Consider that we look down at our phone to read a text or something. Again, at that speed, we could have traveled 500 feet. We need to avoid these situations and consider how our drivers are distracted and what else is happening. As we get into the late fall and winter months, we'll get into driving on ice and our big vehicles. But think about how often we have a vehicle that's greater than 26,000 pounds that we're traveling at. This is the reason we have school zones and designated speed limits of 15 and 25 miles an hour. Be safe out there, and let's protect our children. For this week in the news, I want us to drop our heads, send some good thoughts and prayers, and our brilliant minds of engineering to the families and the 10 miners that are trapped underground, which has now been for more than 5 days in Coahuila, Mexico. There's more than 400 soldiers and other personnel that have joined the rescue efforts, including 6 divers from Mexican Special Forces. Obviously, we have heavy flooding and rain and some bad situations that are impacting this as of right now from the time that this incident happened on August 3rd. The Coal mine opened in January and had no record of complaints from any type of abnormality, according to Mexico's labor ministry. The miners became trapped in the mine on Wednesday, August 3rd, when an excavation caused the tunnel wall to collapse, triggering flooding in 3 wells. It's August 15th. I hope by now we have these men out, or we have a plan in place. Let's send every good wishes we possibly can. And we have, as an industry, come together and overcome some tragic situations like this before, most notably being the 2010 Chilean miners, the 33 miners extracted from San Jose Copper Gold Project in northern Chile, following the collapse of the main entrance ramp that left workers stranded 700 meters below the surface for 69 days. And we saw great companies like Lane and Geotech and Major all mobilize, work to come up with a plan and save these men. And even if we think about it, just a few weeks ago, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of success over the tragic situation that happened at the Q Creek mine that took place in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, where 9 miners were trapped underground for over 77 hours. And we got all of those 9 miners back. So there's no reason for us right now to think we can't rescue these men too. Let's send good well wishes to them and prayers. Next, on to the Inflation Reduction Act. This bill would put about $385 billion into combating climate change and bolstering U.S. energy production through changes that would encourage nearly the whole economy to cut carbon emissions. This includes $30 billion for accelerating U.S. manufacturing of solar, wind, batteries, and critical minerals. This is infusing money into the mining industry to go after those rare earth minerals we need, and this would be back to the thermal network infrastructure, back to geothermal. There's another $10 billion possible for clean technology manufacturing. They've infused $27 billion for the Green Bank funds. What is a Green Bank fund? They basically lend money to energy or energy efficiency projects with an expected return on investment. Thermal networks, geothermal, offshore wind, solar. There's so many possibilities here. There's $20 billion for agriculture subsidies to help farmers, including water reduction for irrigation and fixing canals and where we're losing water. There's $6 billion to reduce emissions in chemical, steel, and cement plants. Type 1 Portland, it's a big carbon footprint, and the concrete industry is working hard to reduce that footprint. So $1.5 billion to reduce methane gas release. And this is by tracing that gas release and abandoning orphan wells. Again, if you have the equipment and you're in those states with many orphan wells, this is your time to diversify your business and get into it. And finally, the big one. There's $4 billion for drought relief from the Inflation Reduction Act. As we look at California, what does that mean for them? It means the funding will preserve water deliveries from the Colorado River, which for California is 700,000 acres of farmland and more than 19 million residents in the region. The Colorado River Basin, or Compact, supplies 40 million people, almost as many as private water wells. Beyond that, that $4 billion will go to maintaining water resources in the face of climate change, which will allow every state to become proactively at water reduction to, one, keep Lake Mead and Lake Powell at critical elevations to keep them in operations. How are we going to do this? We're going to do this by reducing the Colorado River withdrawals. This bill will provide temporary financial assistance to farmers who voluntarily fallow their land as they adjust to reduce levels of the river flow. We've seen this coming down the pipeline. We know less water, we're not getting the crop production. We have farms that need to be able to stay sustainable, and fallowing land has to be one of the things we do. It will also fund water conservation and efficiency projects to keep more water in the river. This bill is now onto the House, and By the time I'm dropping this to you, they will have had 3 or 4 days, and now it's August 15th. And I hope this is on the president's desk and it's getting signed into law. Now let's go into the Colorado Compact and what's going on right there as our main story. For our main story of the week, yes, we're back to the Colorado River Compact and the Western United States drought. On June 15th, the Bureau of Reclamation told the states in the Colorado River Basin that they had 60 days to create a plan to reduce 2 to 4 million acre-feet of water in the next year. Today, August 15th, is that deadline. If the states have not come up with an agreement, the agency will use its emergency authority to make the cuts itself. Where did the science come for 2 to 4 million acre-feet? Basically, the Bureau of Reclamation did a protection volume analysis to understand the amount of additional water or conservation that would be needed to maintain critical elevations at Lake Powell and Lake Mead for the next 4 years. That's 2023 to 2026. The analysis shows that it would take approximately 600,000 acre-feet to 4.2 million acre-feet per year of a reduction starting next year to maintain critical elevations in Lake Powell and Lake Mead. On July 18th, there was a letter submitted to the Bureau of Reclamation from the Upper Basin states. This is their letter. The Upper Division states recognize that bringing the system into balance will require collaboration and efforts from all basin states and water use sectors. Accordingly, we stand ready to participate and support efforts across the basin to address the continuing dry hydrology and depleted storage conditions. However, the options the Upper Division states have available to protect critical reservoir elevations are limited. The Upper Basin is naturally limited to the shrinking supply of the river, and previous drought response actions are depleting upstream storage by 661,000 acre-feet. Our water users already suffer chronic shortages under current conditions, resulting in uncompensated priority administration, which includes cuts to numerous present perfected rights in each of our states. Reclamation data shows that the lower basin and Mexico depletion are more than double the depletion in the upper basin. Therefore, additional efforts to protect critical reservoir elevations must include their 5-point plan, which is to go back and look at the Conservation Study and Act of 2014, to look at interstate and intrastate water consumption and make sure that they are getting their adequate use. We have to look at this. There is, between the lower basin and Mexico, there is about 9 million acre-feet promised. And we know that California is using 4.4 million acre-feet and Arizona is using 2.5 million acre-feet. California being the largest consumptor of the Colorado River. And as we look at, apportionment and everything that is to their rights, it has to be equal. And 100 years ago, when the Colorado River Compact was created, it was divided up equally between the upper and lower basin states, with the dividing line set as Lee's Ferry, located in northern Arizona Canyon Country, close to the Utah border. Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico are the upper basin states. California, Arizona, and Nevada are the lower basin states. Each basin was to receive 7.5 million acre-feet per year. We have seen two big pop culture talks about this, not to mention when we start seeing this discussion hit late night TV, we're in serious trouble. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver covered this as a featured story, and the creators, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, of South Park did an episode called The Streaming Wars that, beyond the typical potty humor of South Park, had a lot to say about water consumption in Colorado and how it flows and water rights. Along with the allocation for the lower basin states, they are allowed to increase apportionment by 1 million acre feet. This was a deal that was basically presented to the lower basin so they would accept the compact 100 years ago. The delegates figured allocation of hydrogeologic data from the Bureau of Reclamation indicated annual Colorado River flow at Lee's Ferry to be at least 16.4 million acre feet. However, many studies today show data from 3 centuries indicate an average flow of about 13.5 million acre feet. Also, because of the snow melt and seasons and everything else that's happening, including climate change, these flows have become highly erratic, ranging from 4.4 million acre feet to over 22 million acre feet. We can remember just a decade and a half ago that they were releasing more water down to New Mexico and Texas for the Rio Grande and into Mexico because there was a surplus in the reservoirs. This is how the Colorado River is broken up. It is used primarily for agricultural irrigation and municipal and industrial purposes. The river's flows, stored water, are also important for power production, fish and wildlife, and recreation, among other uses. A majority, 70% of the basin water supply are used to irrigate 5.5 million acres of land. These basins also provide water supplies to nearly 40 million people. This is a big conversation that we're having right now. And as this being August 15th, we've seen that the Upper Basin has laid out a 5-point plan. Go read their letter. Look at the discussion. But the discussion comes back to conservation, consumption, water reduction, looking at zero discharge methods, desalinization. There's a lot that we have to do in order for us as the water community or the Western United States, all of these people being impacted, comes back to coming up with the right plan and understanding we do not have the amount of water we had. And the insanity that we're seeing right now of discussions of moving water from the Mississippi 900 miles into the Colorado River Basin, or Nebraska and their $50 million investment to make sure they get their canal from Colorado for the Platte River Compact so that they get their allotment as they watch Colorado grow. This is something we all need to be paying attention to. Thanks for joining me for the Driller Newscast episode 24, brought to you by TDH Manufacturing. Every vision and feature that TDH has engineered is with one goal in mind: to enable the contractor to increase their revenue simply because their pump hoist is more efficient. I've covered a lot of news this week. I think it's important what is happening with the Colorado River Compact in the Western United States, and understanding again, and I will say this every episode, California, Texas, and Florida are 3 of the biggest water consumptors in the country, with large populations and also a lot of house seats in DC. And we need to understand that we as a groundwater community and as a water community have to stick together and make sure that we're contacting the right experts and having the proper discussions before something gets out of control and we change how water is moved throughout our country. We've covered lightning safety several times. We're at 13 people in the United States now, being the 15th of August, that have been killed by lightning. And again, it's back to school. Let's watch out for our little ones. Have a great week.